Is data historians becoming a more process and an architecture than a product? How do you think about that? Or am I kind of imagining stuff and just in my nut and brain of not accepting the status quo? Since you mentioned OSI Pi, who's obviously been a key player in the historian space, it really evokes, a broader discussion that I think we touched on briefly. What is the historian today? I mean, I'm really interested in this perspective. Let me set it up for a second. Traditionally, historians have been filling up very specific role and in the traditional operational sense. But like you're saying, now there's like 20 different connections, and I feel like the historian is a term used, but like in the real world implementation now, elements of the data or all sorts of islands of data exist in various system places, clouds, lake, oceans, you name it. And so the real sort of full historian, I don't know how to call it, the all-encompassing historian is kind of in obviously more than one system, but it's like it becomes like the historian is almost a process. So kind of like the way you think about information security. So like, when is it done? Never, because there's always more vulnerabilities you have to fix, more compliance you have to address, more, etc. So is data historians becoming a more process and an architecture than a product? How do you think about that? Or am I kind of imagining stuff and just in my nut and brain of not accepting the status quo?
Well, Don, I think what it comes down to is how do we envision how action gets taken and then what feeds into that. So I believe the Pi historian and SAP and LIMS systems and all of that, what we should be thinking about is, in order to make good decisions on changing a process, that involves not only the time series data stored in a traditional historian, but also the additional context needed.
Yeah, totally. And this is now that you're saying it like that, I didn't think about it like that, but maybe I'll try this on you. It almost like that the emphasis becomes like, what is the tool I'm using to access the data, which becomes the historian, as opposed to like what we used to call historian in the past. And
right.
That's...
Mm-hmm. If we come at what the problem is that we're trying to solve or the success we're trying to create, to put it positively,
Yep.
Then we can say, what are the pieces that we need from that? And then where does the cloud play in? Where does this historian play? Where does a combination of, say, a couple of us in the ecosystem working together deliver a comprehensive solution for somebody?
Yeah. So this is back to what we said we'll circle back to in operations calling when we were launching our ecosystem, and it was very exciting to see everybody here. And we had a discussion, how do we embrace openness and interoperability and kind of open up the tech stack such that it creates value to the customer? How do you see that in action? Do you have some examples or strategies that you would suggest customers and partners adopt to make the best out of what the ecosystem can offer?
To some extent, making sure we're starting with what is the outcome that they are trying to achieve, as opposed to presupposing which solutions fit that outcome. I believe Tulip and Seeq and many other companies are in a better position to be responsive if we understand truly what it is that's trying to be developed or implemented. And then because of partnerships that we're growing, like the fact, we're working together now more, we can show up and say, all right, you're trying to do that. Here's how.
Here's pieces of the solution coming together.
That's right. We should not leave it as a burden to the customers, the companies out there, to try to sort it out and put it together. We can do a much better job in 24 and 25 partnering both with, I'll call it more of the historical vendors that have been in the space and very effective years in combination with many of us that are a little bit newer on the scene in the last 10 years. And really, there's a lot of very good synergy, even though I usually hate that word.
But yeah. it comes with a lot of baggage, but like in a way, it's accurate.